Hello, today we're going to talk about Unit 10 from Grammar and Vocabulary, and it is about noun clauses. I should warn you in advance that maybe the vocabulary, not the vocabulary, I mean the terminology regarding grammatical points may not coincide with what your teachers usually teach you in grammar. So simply disregard the language here because I won't be asking you grammar questions, right? So from this unit, I don't have any comments from the basics, uh, though I would, if I were you, I would pay attention to point number 3, which is very good about the different functions that clauses can have, noun clauses can have in a sentence, right? So we're going to go directly to section 1. And in this section, what you get is a I'm not going to comment on every single thing that is explained here, but actually a couple of points that I think are important. And this is the reason why I have should here in the dictionary, right? The points that I think are relevant from section 1 have to do with something you saw in Unit 9 in Language 2 for translation, or in Language 1 for teacher training. And this is the question of the use of the subjunctive, right? And when we use it and how we use it. And should is a word that we tend to use with the idea of the subjunctive, right? Particularly in this phrase in point number 2, following adjectives, it was inevitable that they should find out eventually, right? And let's see if I search it. Well, actually, we don't have the exact same example here. We find this one, I find it astonishing that he should be so rude. And actually, this should might be omitted, and we would end up saying that he be so rude, right? Possibly you remember that. And this structure with it, actually, not with I find it, that you have here, it was inevitable that he should find, that they should find. And we can use other adjectives like it is odd, it is strange, it is funny that he should do something, right? Remember, in that case, I also told you that when we use something like unlikely, we tend to use would. So it is unlikely he would do something like that when we speak about possibility, right? Now you have other adjectives here, and actually further ahead you have the verbs that call for the subjunctive, right? The typical verb is the verb to suggest, right? In point number 3, I suggested he remove all reference to alcohol in the article, and you know that in that case I suggested he should remove. And here you have the summary that I usually give you in Language 2 from Unit 9 that we tend to use with these verbs. I suggest, recommend, command, order, require, insist, propose, that he should be, right? And the should can be omitted. Naturally, this makes this much more formal, and particularly when you hear something like he be, right? It sounds very odd. It sounds incorrect in English, but it is a subjunctive. With adjectives like it is advisable, it is essential, desirable, preferable, and acceptable that he be. And with nouns, the decision, the insistence, the demand, the requirement, the condition that he be, right? So in all of these cases, we are using the subjunctive. Please remember, sorry to go back, that the verb suggest will never be followed by the to infinitive, right? I suggest doing something, or that we should do something. Recommend can take the to infinitive. And remember, recommend, double M. Okay. So let's go to our point here. And, well, I think this is all I wanted to say, right? The same would happen with the sentence, I mean, I didn't put the verb decide, but look at this sentence. I decided that he go, right? Same thing. This happens all the time in English. Well, not all the time. It happens quite frequently. Okay, so We are going to comment briefly on the omission of that, right? Unfortunately, I don't have any comments from the dictionary, but I can give you some sentences as, I mean, usually for the omission of that, you probably know this without someone telling you to, right? You can feel it is right to omit that. One of the rules, because actually this is a very tricky area of the language, is that when that is the subject, it cannot be omitted. So in the woman that is married is here, decide if you can omit it or not. The woman, well, that is here is his wife. Now, I gave you the wrong sentence. Sorry, let's delete that one. The woman that is here is his wife. And the woman that he married is here. So probably you already know we can omit this one, right? The woman he married is here. But the woman that is here cannot be omitted because that is the subject. The woman who is here, I need the subject for this verb to be, so I cannot omit this, that. So when that is the subject of the sentence, it cannot be omitted, right? Well, that's all I have to say about section 1, to be frank. As regards the activity 1 can be a bit confusing, and so is activity 2, so you may skip them if you prefer, but remember that I always tell you the same thing. It's best for you to do all the activities. 3, of course, is paraphrasing, so go on and do it, and pay attention to the verb neglect. I don't know, because I am in the wrong side. Sorry, I prefer to use this one. Neglect. Right, you neglect a person and you neglect to do something. Be careful with that pattern. Also in activity 4, you have this idiomatic expression, grin and bear it. So these idiomatic expressions, year in, year out, right? We have another subjunctive here. For example, we need motions past that could whether be shared, que sea compartido, right? And the other, the final expression here is to go on ad nauseam, deny, neglecting a baby, to neglect someone for years, right? So it's a very nice patterns, right? And the noun negligence. And then I wanted to take you to ad nauseam. Very formal expression to say non-stop, ad nauseam. Nice pronunciation, right? Okay, let's move on to section 2 then, right? If you want to take a break, this is your moment. Once again, from section 2, there isn't a lot for me to be said. I am interested in the explanations for whether and if, right? And to be frank, I am not going to demand that you remember all these rules, but there's a couple of rules that are important. In point number 4, if is common when the noun clause is the object of a verb. So do you know whether or if the object, right? Do you know if they're coming is frequent? And it is more frequent or more common, whether is more common than if, in subject position. So whether she needs to know is debatable, right? Usually whether it should be there when you mean whether or not, right? And then as regards other positions, as subject, well, it is more informal after the verb to be. If is more informal. Now, only whether can follow a preposition, right? Only whether can have a position as a non-defining relative clause. And when you use or not, you can only use whether. And also before or not, right? You can only use whether, right? Well, whether to go or stay, whether or not this is a good idea. You can see many examples with whether or, right? And the difference here. And of course, you have this very nice box that you can read at your own leisure. Maybe you want to stop the video and take a look at that, right? Okay. Now, there's a very interesting point here in point number 5 from section 2, which draws a distinction for the meaning of what, right? Look at this sentence. With how and with plural or uncountable nouns after what, it is sometimes difficult to decide whether the clause is an exclamation or an ordinary WH clause. The context is the only clue. You would never believe what problems I had. And the problem is to interpret this, what problems I had. Does it mean you would never believe what a lot of problems I had? Or does it mean you would never believe what the problems were, right? And please note that we have similar problems in Spanish. I am going to read some examples from Maria Negroni's Escribir en Español, right? This is the orange cover book. It's page 72. I know there's a newer edition, but for example, she says, supe que leías y supe que leías. Sorry. Well, basically it's con o sin tilde, right? Supe que leías versus supe que leías. Vayan pensando si ven una diferencia de sentido. Ya verás cómo lo ha hecho. Ya verás cómo lo ha hecho. Vestime despacio que estoy apurado. Sé cuánto has trabajado versus sé cuánto has trabajado. Van a ver que en algunos casos esto se ve más claro. Por ejemplo, supe que leías con tilde. Supe que leías, es decir, el que interrogativo, supe lo que leías. Mientras que supe que leías, el hecho de que leías, supe que estaba leyendo, right? Ya verás cómo lo ha hecho, el cómo interrogativo, la manera en que lo ha hecho, versus cómo lo ha hecho, el hecho de que lo ha hecho. Right? Y sé cuánto has trabajado con tilde, ese cuánto interrogativo, qué cantidad, mientras sé cuánto has trabajado, todo lo que has trabajado, right? So I found it interesting that we have the same distinction, right? There are many other cases. You can check them out actually within reglas de acentuación, because actually we can tell the difference between these words by adding a stress. In English, that is not possible, unfortunately, right? Okay, so as regards the activities for this section, all of them are quite useful. Maybe activity 2 is a bit confusing, but all of them are quite useful, particularly the paraphrasing, right? So let's go to section 3, and here in section 3 we're going to talk about the to infinitive and the ing, right? Now I am actually disregarding this, so maybe we'll stay here for a while. In a minute we'll be looking something up, but I want to tell you that if you want to investigate this further, Swan has entries from 288 to 292, and that's for the ing forms, and for the to infinitive 293 to 300, right? These are very useful entries. And actually I want to focus on a couple of things. We won't be focusing on everything. And one of them is the use after prepositions, right? I object to driving all that way. And you can see here, maybe we can look up the verb object. I object to doing something. You know that there aren't too many verbs that have this pattern, right? And in which case to is not the particle that accompanies the infinitive, but rather a preposition. You can go to Swan entry 298 number 6, actually subsection number 6, and you will find many other expressions, right? So sorry, I got to the object as a noun, but as a verb, I object to doing something, right? Here is the pattern. And you know others, like I'm looking forward to seeing you. You can also say to see you, but I'm looking forward to seeing you. I am used to doing something. I prefer doing something. Well, get round to. Let's see if I find it like that. Get round to doing something, which is find the time to do something. Yes, I meant to do the errand, but I couldn't get round to it, to doing it, actually, to doing it. I like this one. I don't know if we will find it under give.